Good, you're good.
Am I good? Sorry.
Over to you.
All right, sorry. Today is Friday 13th. Wow, February 13th. No. Feels like Friday the 13th. Sorry, it's February 13th. It's the Oscoda Township regular board meeting. Let's call this to order at 6:57 p.m. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings? Here. Ms. McGuire?
Here.
Mr. Spencer?
Here.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Wusterbarth?
Present.
Ms. Richards?
Here. Do we have any agenda additions this evening, Amy?
I have one. Under subcommittee, I'd like to have a report from the compensation committee for Ms. Klein's contract. I'd like to know where we stand on that.
We haven't met.
I'll just like it on the
Put it
record.
under there.
Okay. All right, any other agenda additions?
I have nothing.
Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'd make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented with the addition of the compensation committee under subcommittee number 2.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Next on is our public comment. We have 2 public comment sections on the agenda. First public comment section is reserved for agenda items only. You have to fill out a comment card for that. We do have a second public comment at the end. Both are limited to 4 minutes. Tammy, do we have any comment cards for the first?
I have one for first public comment. Kathy Wusterbarth, RAB events this week.
Okay.
Hi everybody, Kathy Wusterbarth, Oscoda. Just wanted to, I know that the RAB is being discussed today on the agenda, but there's some additional events that are around that meeting that I want to talk about in advance. We are planning a rally at the corner of US 23 and River Road to lift up our message about the interim remedial actions that will be discussed during the RAB meeting. Those are things that can be put in place right now to protect our community from the flow of PFAS that's coming off of the base. And we have submitted those plans to the Air Force. So, and they're not considering 2 of them, and we would like for them to consider them. So we're having a rally so that we can lift up that message. And then after that, we're going to be having a press conference for the media at the United Methodist Church. And then following that, there'll be the RAB. So just to give you a little bit of background, I know that you got the letter that the NOW group sent to the congressional members of Congress this last week about those interim remedial actions. Where again, there's 4 that are being considered from the Air Force, or 4 that are 4 that we've submitted. 2 of them they are actually working on, and they'll be covering that process at the RAB meeting. But the other 2 are the landfill 3031 and what's called the DRMO area, and they're basically in the same area in the off of F41, and they're coming off of the base. So we really want them to contain that, and I'm hoping that the community will come out and share support for that. One of the things I did get a suggestion from our new House Rep Mike Hoadley when I talked to him on Friday in his office hours about this issue. He did suggest that I approach the township and the county about maybe getting a resolution of support for these actions. I think what I sent to Tammy and Tim about whether these are legitimate requests, we did get some feedback from the state Eagle immediately on these suggested plans, and they are in the process of writing a letter of support for them. So Eagle does agree with these interim remedial actions, and we're hoping that the township will consider a resolution to support them. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's it on the public comment.
For first.
Okay, thank you. All right, then moving on with the consent agenda, we have a few meeting minutes. The first is the special meeting minutes from January 23rd. Is there any questions or comments on those? Okay, hearing none. We also have regular meeting minutes from January 23rd. Anything there? Moving on to finance, we have the payment of bills. We have a prepaid from January 31st in the amount of $56,347.36. Is there any specific questions on that?
Yeah, I might, a couple of questions. Let's see, where are my notes here? Well, number one is on page
January 31st.
11 of the packet. We have payment for a printer for the assessor's office. I'm just wondering if we need to continue to keep that in that office, if we have plans to maybe use that office later, that we would need a printer, or is there some terms under the lease that we have to keep that number of printers? I don't know.
Well, currently, the bigger copier that was being used in the assessor's office is being used by the police department. So, for the time being, we are under a lease contract, so
Okay.
we're getting use out of it anyway.
Okay, as long as it's being used.
Yes.
Anytime I come in the township hall, the office is dark. I just didn't know if we needed to continue to pay for the printer in there. But if we're using it for other means, then that's fine. Also, let's see. Finance. It was on, well, this would be under the next, February 1st, payment of bills.
Okay, so was that done on January 31st? So then going on to February 1st then, we have the $72,609.16. You had a question on those?
And on page 16 of the packet,
Okay.
there is a fee of $475, an assessor consulting fee for some firm I've never heard of. We have our own, a new assessor offsite, and we also have our old assessor on standby as a consultant. I was just curious what this consulting fee would be for.
This is for an ongoing issue with the new assessor. Someone's questioning their taxes. So there's additional steps that need to be taken, and that was part of it.
Okay.
That's all I can say.
Okay, all right. Very good, thank you.
Okay. Then we have a prepaid from February 7th. That amount is $48,651.76. Any questions on that? Okay, and then we have the check run for February 14th. I believe you emailed that out, Josh?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any questions on those?
I did have one other question. This was on page 22, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We're still paying for the cleaning service for Ani. At our last meeting I was at, we were getting close to having that turned over to the new owner. Are we?
Yes,
Closer.
we're in what's called a novation that needs to be filled out. Mr. Lee now has his SAM's number, and we are working with the VA to get that transferred.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay. Then next we have this.
On the last one,
Sorry.
on the last February 14th, there were 2 charges under the sewer and water for tires for the Vector truck.
Yes.
Is this the new Vector truck?
No, it's the old one.
The old one, okay, all right, all right.
We spent a lot of money for a brand-new
Yeah.
Vector truck, and it didn't seem like we needed new tires for it. Okay. Just want to get that clarified.
All right, any other questions on the February 14th? All right, then we have the C2R2 checking reports. Any questions there? All right, and then moving on to the CWSRF checking reports. And then the DWRF checking report. Any questions there? Comments? All right, hearing none, I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there support?
Support by Cummings.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to subcommittee reports and project updates. First on is the RAB update. Tim?
Yes, thank you. So as Ms. Wurstabarth pointed out, yes, we have another RAB meeting coming up this week. And this Wednesday, the RAB meeting will be held from 5 to 8 p.m. at the United Methodist Church, which is immediately behind Township Hall. It will offer in person, of course, we're having a meeting there, and we'll also offer the option to attend virtually. I also wanted to talk a minute about the additional pages that I have included in this packet, which are the letters, the 7 letters that the NOW Group has addressed for support from our congressmen, congresswomen, and senators regarding the 4 IRAs, the interim remedial actions that she mentioned during her public comment. Looking forward to having this conversation at the RAB, and I want everybody to be aware that this request has been made, that the work that the NOW Group is doing, and to hope that there is some attendance for this RAB meeting on Wednesday. Because it offers virtual attendance, I would love to see more people attending. It is a bit of a long meeting, but it's really worth attending, and you get a lot of information. I encourage everyone to attend. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, compensation committee.
It's been a while since that went back to the committee, and we still have an outstanding issue with Tammy's contract. I spoke with her late last week about it. She hasn't gotten an update, and I guess from the board, from my position on the board, I'd like to know where we're at with it.
Well, I know it was myself, Tim, and Bill, correct, that are supposed to be that committee? And Bill was on vacation, so we haven't met yet.
I'm back.
Yeah, okay. And I'm leaving on Wednesday, so.
Are we going to try to hurry up and meet before you leave?
I don't know.
How long will you be gone?
I sent in, that's in the email. I'm
Oh, very
gone
good.
until the
Thank you.
26th. Yep.
Very good, thanks.
Yep. So I'll send an email out to the 2 of you. We can go from there.
Okay.
All right. All right, then moving on to the superintendent's report. First on is the Match on Main grant.
All right, your packet contains 2 grant applications for the next round of MEDC's Match on Main grant program. The township's eligibility to apply for this grant is a direct result of our RRC designation. The township may submit up to 2 grant requests supporting qualified small businesses in the downtown business district. The EIC recommends that the board consider approving the 2 grant applications provided in your packet, which need to be submitted to the MEDC by February 24th.
Okay. Questions, comments, additional from, we do have a board member that sits on the EIC, being you, Josh.
Yep. We reviewed those at our meeting last week and have all the information put together now and basically bringing this to the board to ask for approval to submit on their behalf.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? No questions on the grant applications?
Just a comment that I'm very happy that we have grant applications.
Yes, me too.
Okay. There's two in there. One is
Mhm.
for a business on River Road, and the other is for a restaurant. Correct?
Yes.
I would make a motion to approve both Match on Main applications from Teresa Edelman and Chang Yang as presented.
Support by Cummings.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Cummings to approve the submittal of those grant applications as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the meter pit purchase request.
At the January 23rd, 2023 board meeting, a request was made and approved for the purchase of 300 meter pits for the upcoming 2023 water main project. Along with the purchase of these meter pits, the township will also need to purchase meters accordingly. Your packet contains a quote for the purchase of 300 meters in the amount of $49,566 from Ferguson Waterworks. The meters need to be ordered immediately to be available for the upcoming construction season, which is now looking like it will be closer to November if we do not order right away. And later, F&V has let me know that they will be going through the radio inventory. Those particular parts need to be ordered separately as well. So that will be coming in a month or so after they finished inventory and know what we have and the number that we'll need. So that will come later, but the meters first.
Okay, is there any further questions or a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the purchase of 300 meters for the upcoming water main projects in the amount of $49,566 to be paid from the C2R2 funds after reimbursement is requested and deposited into the township's account.
Okay, is there support?
Support, Spencer.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Spencer to approve the request as submitted. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to resolutions and ordinances, we have ordinance number 2011-244 amendment. I'm assuming, Nicole, that's why you moved over.
Yes, that's why I'm here.
Okay.
So, both of these items are going to be your first read. I will be bringing it back a second time. But the ordinance amendments for ordinance 2011-244, that's the establishment of the Planning Commission, and it was initially, it became law in 2011 when the ordinance was written. Well, since then, things have changed, and it has alternate language in it, and as we've discovered over the course of this last 6 to 9 months, we can't have that. So the biggest change in this ordinance is removing that language and then just adding vice chairperson as somebody that the Planning Commission will elect, because we do have a vice chairperson and it is in our bylaws, so we needed it in the ordinance. And then under subdivision and land division recommendations, there's a minor change there as well.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Nicole? All right, okay, thank you very much.
I have another one.
Okay,
Okay. So the second one is adding the definition to the ordinance. We need to add what a full bathroom is, and the reason for that is in the micro housing ordinance, which is fairly new, it does state that the micro house has to have a full bathroom. So you'll see what the definition is that the Planning Commission came up with. It's not the true definition that realtors use, but we wanted to give micro housing, I mean, we didn't want them to have to be stuck with a bathtub and a shower. So we wanted to give them the option of either or, because it's so small anyway. And, yeah, we just need to add it to the ordinance.
All right, any questions on that?
So basically, a full bathroom is going to have, you can have a bathtub or a stand-up shower. So you don't
Yes.
have to have the whole bathtub in there
Right.
for the full bath.
And again, Nicole, this is just first read.
First read, yep, and these both have been through first read with the Planning Commission at the January meeting and the public hearing we held last week at the Planning Commission meeting. And I should note that the Planning Commission ordinance amendment, that was revised by the attorney.
Good.
So you'll be coming back to us
Yes.
about when?
2 weeks.
Okay. See you then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Unless anybody else has questions, sorry. Okay. All right, moving on then, sorry. I guess if I would have switched my paper, I would have saw that. We have the Oscoda Sable Chamber request.
Okay, so normally, as the board has previously approved, that I could approve these if there's no monetary value, but because there are DPW requests in this, on these requests, I would like to make sure I have board approval for all the events.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? They look pretty straight, yeah. A couple of new things, the Bigfoot Bash. That sounds pretty interesting.
The shore fun run.
Yeah,
That was, yeah, that actually took a hiatus, but it's back again.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to approve all of the Oscoda Sable Chamber of Commerce requests as presented.
I'll support that. There's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Ms. Richards to approve the request as submitted. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes. Motion passed. Okay, moving on to CPA Revisited. There's nothing in the packet, so I have no idea what it's about.
I asked to have that put on the agenda from the extension of the CPA's contract in a meeting, 2 meetings ago, I believe. I asked Ms. Klein how it was going, and just shortly after we approved that, it doesn't appear to me that the CPA understands who the authority is in the township to disseminate the work, in a discussion I had with Tammy. And going back through some board minutes from August 8th from our work session, the CPA even mentions in there that the clerk and treasurer, as the books have been cleaned or are cleaned, should be able to manage these adjustments going forward. That being said, I'd like to make a motion to cease services with the current CPA.
Okay, is there support for that motion?
I'll support that motion.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth and support by Mr. Palmer to cease, cancel, how do you want to word that, sorry?
And the contract.
End the contract with the current CPA. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
No.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
No. Motion carried. Sorry, let me just read this down. Okay, next on is the Oscoda Township PFAS discussion. There is information in the packet that was there the last month as well.
Yeah, simply, I had this this was added in the packet at the last boarding, but we kind of had a very long meeting. So I just asked that the board review my comments, what I'm trying to do, or what I'd like to see us do is, to me, documentation is everything in this society today. We have a huge issue with PFAS on the base, and I think we as a township need to start documenting our meetings, events, and notes. So I put kind of a framework into the packet, what I'd like to see. I'd really like this board to request that Ms. Klein and her department heads leave it up to Ms. Klein to manage this and then report out to the board periodically and where we're at with the PFAS. And just so we have a record.
Okay. Do you need any clarification at all, Tammy, in regard to what's being requested, or Josh, for the meeting minutes?
No, it's fairly spelled out. So.
Okay.
I have a question. What is the frequency in which you meet with the Air Force?
It's usually very random. I will usually get an email requesting a meeting. Not very often.
Yeah, I just remember we talked about it a while, some months ago, and I hadn't been invited to a meeting, so I wondered if it's been that many months, or...
I haven't had any meetings.
Got it. Okay, so it's been like 5-6 months.
It's kind of
Right.
like they pop in town for the RAB when they're here, so they just make it part of their stop to stop and see the township.
Huh, interesting. Okay. But they're not doing it this time.
I haven't gotten anything.
Interesting.
Nothing at all.
I see. Okay.
And I guess I'll just state now, I will not be in town on the 15th.
Mhm.
Thus the reason that I would not be at the RAB meeting or
Right.
any other discussions. So.
Right.
You say you don't meet with the Air Force very often. How about the Air Force contractors around base?
No, those are usually all at the same time.
All together, okay. All right.
Interesting. So I read that as really low engagement. It's just, I mean, it's just, I'm amazed that they're not reaching out to have any conversation with us at all. So, all right, thank you. I mean, certainly not your fault, but just surprising. Kind of a ho-hum, kind of relationship we have with them.
Doesn't even feel like ho-hum. It feels like, who was that? Oh, Oscoda. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess with that, I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the superintendent to manage the documentation of the PFAS with her departments with a periodic update as an agenda item on the board packet.
Support, Sutton?
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Mr. Sutton. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the Board of Review appointment. The packet contains an application from Tim O'Connor. I did not have him, he's actually on vacation, did not have him update it to indicate that it was the Board of Review. We have several emails between us, including Josh as well. His qualifications are the same no matter what he applies for. And he was very interested in being on the Board of Review. Was actually, again, before he even is appointed, doing some education, online education. So, thanks. If you have any questions.
I was asked the other day by a citizen about, we were appointing people to these boards, but we're not doing any interviews for them. And I thought that was an excellent point, that we're not doing any interviews, and I'd like to request one for Mr. O'Connor.
Well, the actual process is that the supervisor meets or talks with them. She or he is the one who takes the applications, determines in advance where they might best go. So when you get more applicants than there are positions, she gets to make a decision. But I don't know that it's the board's. We vote, but I don't know that we have to go and have an interview.
Anybody could actually, once we get the
Yeah.
application, could feel free to reach out and ask them
Yeah.
direct questions. I personally think it's inappropriate to have somebody here and be grilling them publicly with questions
Yeah.
when they're trying to apply for a board.
I agree.
But that's just my gut
Would you
feeling.
like to volunteer? Have a
So,
seat.
yeah, I guess that could be called intimidation,
Yeah.
so I don't think we want to do that.
I agree.
But,
Fair enough.
yeah, I mean, and Mr. O'Connor actually was very interested in our planning commission, and we had 2 applicants
Yeah.
that had already applied there, and we
Right.
felt that they were, we went there. So when I reached out to Tim to say that we had gone in a different direction, he was, I think he made a good choice. I'm definitely interested in being a part of the board. or other boards, so I reached out to him to say, that we had a couple, actually, different opportunities, and he thought this was a good match for him, so. And I think it shows a lot that he's on vacation and is actually doing online training, so he's very excited to be a part, so.
Well, I think it needs to be pointed out that this board of review is a very important board.
Yes.
They don't have regular meetings like, some of our boards where we meet twice a month, planning commission meets once a month. But when the board of review does meet, their meetings are defined by Michigan statute and what they have to do, and it's a very important board. So I'm happy to have somebody, because we recently had a long-term member of the board of review that just retired, and so I'm happy to have somebody that's stepping up to fill that position. So I would make a motion to approve Mr. Timothy O'Connor appointment to the board of review.
Support. Oh.
Okay, and I'll just add that term concludes December 31st, 2023. So if you could just add that. Okay. All right, so there was a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by, sorry, I missed that. Was it Ms. McGuire? Okay, motion by, or supported by Ms. McGuire. Yep. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wunschenbart?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on then, we have an Economic Improvement Committee alternate appointment. Again, we posted this position. We have one application for that. Nancy House actually applied. I did call her. Know her from when she was a chamber director. Also made her aware that we had an opening on the Senior Center Building Authority as well, and didn't know if she was aware of that. She said she didn't know about that and wanted to get some information, so I sent her the information on that as well. And she was going to think which one would be the best, and she actually, Mr. Sutton reached back out to her because I hadn't heard from her, and she did indicate that she wanted to be on the EIC as an alternate, so that's where she wants to be considered. So, with that, I think she'd be a great fit. Hopefully she's up for the challenge. There's a lot of exciting things happening there, but if somebody has any questions on that, if not, I would make a motion that we appoint Nancy House as our alternate to the EIC committee, and that board term would be good through December 31st, 2026.
Support. Sutton?
There's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Sutton. And I'll just indicate that this term was recently vacated by a member that had a commitment, another commitment that was a conflict. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Wunschenbart?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. So I think Tim's probably watching the movie or movie. Kind of felt like a movie tonight.
Watching the show.
Watching the show tonight. So, but again, thank you, Tim, and Nancy's in the audience. Thank you, Nancy, for your applications and commitment. So moving on, this is our second public comment. We're done with our agenda. This is our second public comment on the agenda. This does not need to be an agenda topic. It can be any topic whatsoever. Again, no comment cards are needed, but it is limited to 4 minutes. And I'm going to, I do the same thing every time, so I'm doing it again. But I start in one section. When I go to that section, if there's somebody that wants to do public comment, please raise your hand, and then I ask you to come to the podium. So I'm going to start over here on the far right. Anybody? Clayton? Come on, yeah. Come on down. Yeah. Running, yeah, you don't need a running start, right?
Good evening.
And if you could, I'm sorry, if you could state your name, you do need to state your name for Manuela. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Clayton Jolly, and I've been here before. And I am reiterating my request for the policy of the water department now in an emergency to notify all people affected by a boil water notice or need. I brought this up quite some time ago. There was some talk about it. They said that it was being considered. I've heard a lot of talking about systems going to be put in place with computers or whatever to get this accomplished. Meanwhile, I've heard nothing that says we've got something in place right now. I have heard nothing. And my thought is we need to put something in place. If any community ought to be concerned about the quality of its water, it's this one, who's under assault by the Air Forces leaving behind the mess they did. People need to be notified if their health, that's your job as trustees. You've been entrusted with their safety. And that's safety on all levels, not just from fire or crime, but public health. What do you got in place that will work right now that you can notify and be sure you've notified the people that they have to boil this water? And I'm getting no response. You're just looking at me and nobody said, well, we have this plan in place. What is it? What have you done? What do you got? Nothing. That's sad.
No.
You were talking, so I wasn't
Oh,
going to
sorry,
interrupt. So
okay.
if you're asking, okay, I believe we have,
We were waiting on the county, and at the last meeting, I can't remember if it was you or Jeremy that wanted to wait.
right, on the on
Right,
the county's
so
911 thing.
That was supposed to be brought back to the board
Right.
by the April, I believe it was the April 24th meeting, because we were giving the county time to get that installed and taken care of. So that's why it's not on the agenda, because
Right.
I was asked to bring it back in April.
I still don't think that's right. There's nothing in place then. If we'll just do the usual thing we did before, hey, gotta boil your water. Not everybody got that the last time you said everybody had to boil their water in a certain area. You need to do something now. And think about this. If you fail and somebody is harmed, there may be legal consequences this township faces. Need to think about that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else in that first section? Okay, I'm going to go to the middle section. In the middle, if you could raise your hand, Larry.
Larry Holland, Oscoda, Michigan. I'm kind of a solution kind of guy, so I just want to comment on the last gentleman. In the past, what used to happen a really long time ago is we used to have these stand-up signs that the road commission used to use. And a perfect entry point, like when the boil water thing used to happen on the base, slap that sign on the way out so it's at the main gate, and then everybody seeing it would actually see that, type of signage. And we do have some mobile signage that used to exist. We should probably make better use of it in situations like that, because I remember the instance the gentleman's actually referring to. Not everybody did get a notice, and we actually went around and sampled and asked if everybody got notice, and there's water department people that were frantically trying to go door to door, which was not very efficient in the scenario thing. So just a solution. Next thing is that Oscoda Fish. Super important resource in our community. A lot of people do not realize that this telephone number has changed. The telephone number for Oscoda Fish has changed to 989-254-9187. Almost everywhere it's been published online has the wrong telephone number. A bunch of us are trying to find that telephone number that they changed from and get rid of it. So if you see any other telephone number other than the one ending in 9187 out there in the internet, feel free to click on it and say it's the wrong number. As an alternative, 211, another super important thing. If you don't use it, you lose it. Case in point, I used to be pretty fit, not so fit anymore. But 211, in 2021, we had over 700 contacts where people in the Oscoda County area reached out to 211. 211 was an alternative to get into Oscoda Fish and a number of other service providers that otherwise you would have to fumble around and find a telephone number for. So it's a call center activity in which you can call for help, suicide hotline, displaced housing, pregnancy, any number of social issues. You can call 211 and utilize that service. But in 2021, that over 700 contacts, 29.3% was utilities. Fast forward into 2022, and the number of calls and connections went down to 559. That's pretty scary, because if we're not getting utilization out of this, we don't want that service to go away. That service needs to stay in place, and it needs to be said frequently. 211, pick up the phone and call 211. If you don't get that 211 notice out there, or get that 211 number out there, people keep seeing that decline. That service might not be justifiable to keep in our community. Looking at the list of the media reports, it was 30% was electric service payment assistance for 2022. They haven't published the current numbers yet, but it was that's the number one for both years. 1 year it was homelessness was a frequent call-in. The next year it happened to be heating fuel payment assistance. But a lot of people are using this type of service in our community. If you're a member of any type of social media group, if you have a Facebook page, you know, throw these things out there, because it's a lot cooler to see stuff that people can use than the type of bickering that we see on the internet nowadays. And if we can get these positive messaging techniques out there that will improve our community, we're going to see a lot more cohesion in this little thing that we call Oscoda. So, and, you know, if you don't use it, you lose it. So maybe I should get a gym membership, I don't know.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the middle section. Kathy?
Kathy Woosterbarth again, here to talk about PFAS again. This time I want to talk about the PFAS blood testing that's occurring in our community. Hopefully you're hearing about it either through mailers that Michigan Department of Health and Human Services are sending to each household in Oscoda and Osable. Everyone 12 years of age and older are eligible. They will be, if you need to call the phone number, I'm going to give another phone number. It's 844-464-7327. That is the number to the state of Michigan, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. And they will do, one more time, Tim says, 844-464-7327.
Thank you.
They will ask you some questions when you call that number to determine whether you're eligible for enrollment. And then at that point, they will schedule an appointment for you. Today I assisted someone with rescheduling their appointment, and they are scheduling all the way out until August. The person on the phone at the other end of the line said they are overwhelmed with phone calls about this exposure assessment, which I am so delighted about. So we have this opportunity and we need to take it until, before it's gone. So you will learn that you will be paid $65 to participate in this exposure assessment. So you will be given that money when you give your blood, and when you walk out the door, it'll be in your hand. So it's immediate satisfaction on that part. And then you'll have that information, unfortunately, 6 months to a year later. Their labs are pretty backed up. So, but the point is to get it as soon as possible so that you can know what's in your body now. And then talk with your provider about steps that you can take to avoid exposure, or things that you might need to look at with your health. So just wanted to make sure I remind people about that, and I will continue to do so for the months for months until interest wanes. That's when they'll stop the study. So we need to participate. All right, thanks you guys.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, still in the middle section. Anybody else want to do public comment? Don't see any raised hands. Last call in the middle. No. Okay, far left-hand side. Kevin?
My name is Kevin Kubik. I live in Oscoda. I had quite a few different things that I wanted to discuss tonight. But before doing this, I'm here speaking on behalf of my First Amendment right to freedom of speech, and I'm asking to not be retaliated against or discriminated against for exercising that legal right. If I were to run over time or out of time, am I allotted more time by this board to speak over 4 minutes?
No, we have a limit of 4 minutes. I'm sorry.
That's the policy of the
That is
board,
the
the township
policy,
board,
yes.
okay. I was just curious because I tried to get on the agenda today and I was denied that access. But Mrs. Klein, the superintendent, sent me an email. It says, quote, "You are more than welcome to participate in public comment and request more time if needed from the township board." So that's not accurate information, correct?
You can request it, but we don't have to.
I'm not going
grant
to get it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And that's been asked by other people in the past.
Yeah, 'cause Mr. Jolly just asked that a few weeks ago at a board meeting, so I just wanted to clarify on that, if that had changed or not. The other thing I wanted to address is the newspaper had went to the township hall and asked the superintendent if they would consider hiring me back as a police officer, and Ms. Klein responded no comment, and she added that the decision was not hers to make, that was up to Chief David's. Now, is Chief David the only one that has the power authority to hire a police officer in the township?
He would make a recommendation. It's a board decision.
Thank you. That's what I had thought. That's how that worked anyways. So I'm just, you know, I was awarded my position back in arbitration. So, the chief fired me, and then I was awarded my position back. So that meant that something there must not have been extremely accurate or correct. And then I then sued the police chief, and those lawsuits were settled. So I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't the only chief wasn't the only one that got to decide if I were to get hired or not. That the board is actually the one that gets to approve that. Correct?
The final approval, correct.
Yeah, okay. Other than that, I probably didn't stand a chance if it was only up to the chief because of our past, anyways, so. But I guess I'm looking for guidance from you guys as well. If I apply for the police department position and a firefighter position, do I stand a chance of being able to come back or be brought back to serve my community based on the past? I'm assuming that each and every one of you guys sitting on this table at this board right now, if you guys had something wrong done to you unjustly, wouldn't you fight back or try to stand up for what was done wrongfully against you? I'm assuming every single one of you would. So, I don't want you guys to be mad at me or upset with me because I did what anybody should do. They should stand up when they're wrong. And I did that, and I beat the township in arbitration, and I was awarded my position back. So I don't want that to be held against me because I stood up for myself, and I stood up and did something that should have been unaccomplishable. I should never have been able to beat this township and be awarded my position back. So it also tells you that there's more to the story than what you guys were being told. So I'm here today to ask if there's any way that I can come before you guys or be before you guys in some sort of questioning so you guys can get the other half of the story that you guys were never ever told. There's a reason why I beat the township in arbitration. I beat Ms. Klein and the chief. So there's more than what you guys were provided. So I want to be able to get my reputation back because I enjoyed working for the township. Then I want my pension.
Okay.
I want my retirement.
Thank you, Kevin. Your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right, that was it on the public comment on that section. So with that, I will go to board comment. Somebody want to start? Anybody have anything to say?
I do. I'll start
Okay.
then.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
I just wanted to add that I had neglected to state earlier when I was giving the RAB update that I would be working with Mr. Sutton as the clerk, who frequently is the one who does our resolutions, and I'll propose a resolution for our next board meeting in support of the 7 letters that are going out to the various congressmen, congresswomen, senators. I think that the 4 interim remedial actions that are being proposed by the NOW group are important, and I'm sure there will be a topic of discussion at the RAB meeting. And so I'll propose that for the next board meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jeremy, did you have anything?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Josh?
Just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Wishdebarth for all your work on being able to get everybody in and get tested for their blood, and I'm glad to hear that that's taken off and they're overwhelmed and everybody's getting in and getting that looked at. And if you haven't, it'll be in the minutes, and she gave you the number tonight. Make sure you call and make an appointment.
Okay. To my left, anybody? Bill?
I'd just like to make one comment. About the fish organization, I don't know that a lot of people in the community know about fish. It stands for Friends Instantly Sharing Help. And what they do is they're funded by a number of different agencies. Our Lions Club donates money to the fish organization. But people call in on the line, and whoever happens to be answering the phone that day is authorized to issue, and it can range anything. They give everything from gas money to get to a doctor's appointment, to help with utility bills, threatened shutoffs. Oftentimes people will call and they're threatened with, they're going to have their power shut off in the next day or two, and fish can make arrangements to hold that off and get money to the utility so that gets held off. And they don't get a lot of acknowledgement. I don't know that a lot of people even have heard of fish. So I appreciate Larry mentioning that. I think it's a wonderful function that we have here in our community. And of course, they work with a limited budget, and they have to keep track of the folks that they help. And once they reach a certain limit for that year, then they can't receive any more funding. But it's an important, it's a great organization that operates here in Oscoda, and tries to help a lot of people. So that's my comment.
Just for myself, we had a Cedar Lake Improvement Board meeting today. It was a special meeting held in Harrisville at 10 a.m. A few things, we've got a few RFPs going out from the board for the lake management, the weed control, and engineering services going forward. The next meeting will be on March 20th. If I remember right. March 20th to open and those bids and discuss those. So ask everybody who's involved in those special assessment districts from Iosco County and Alcona County to try to attend the meeting. We're getting some good word out from the Private Lake Association, the Owners Association on the lake, and Mr. Linderman and Ms. Brown doing a good work in keeping the public informed. We also have a tab on our Oscoda website for the Cedar Lake Improvement Board, so all the meeting packets and everything we discuss are now online, and people can get to them relatively easily. So.
Thanks, Steve.
Yep, I have a couple things actually. Just an update with the assessor's office. I've had a few people coming in still looking for their PREs or veterans exemptions. Still haven't had anybody really upset that there's nobody in that office. I have had one resident came in and wanted to get a copy of his card, and Tammy was kind enough to open the door and let me to get in there to copy some information. I did take a class on what every board member needs to know about assessing, and there was quite a few policies in there that I'm not sure that we're following. One, for instance, is that office is supposed to be open to the public to be able to get their records if they want to and make copies or look at them. So I don't know if that's something that maybe Tammy can look into to see if we have that policy, or it's not unlocked, so I don't know if we're open to the public or if we're just going to do it as a as-needed basis. The other thing I wanted to mention is taxes are due tomorrow, And after tomorrow's date, then there's 3% penalty till the end of the month. And then you only have till the end of the month to pay it here, and then March 1st, it goes delinquent to the county. I have had quite a few people that we've been processing their winter payments, and they haven't noticed that their summer payments are not made. So if you're not sure, you need to check, you can go online and check. I've been helping people access that information online and kind of walking them through the process. And you can call our office, and we'd be happy to look it up for you.
All right, thank you. I do not have any comment this evening. So I make a motion, we adjourn at 7:52.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Steve, did you ever get your